Part 33. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 323. This is a town that flows from south to north and is a north-south fortress. Read. Although it is small, its location is important, so many checkpoints and roadblocks have been set up. The officers and soldiers held the portraits of Kui Sheng and Lu Bachan at the gate of the town and looked at them one by one. Lu Bachan was disdainful, but he thought highly of me. He pulled the hair on his head again, making it look like a chicken coop, and walked over in line. When it was his turn, an officer and soldier came up to look him over, looked at Lu Bachan, and then at the portrait. Seeing that his hair was hanging on his head and face, I wanted to move it away with my hands, but when I saw that his face was dirty, I felt a little disgusted and put my hands down again. What are you doing? Why are you in town? Come on, report back to the official. I haven't had anything to eat for a few days. I want to go into the town to see if there are any kind-hearted people willing to give me some food. I'm really hungry. Lu Bachan said with a pretended look of fear. This is often the case when ordinary people meet officials. He has seen a lot and learned a lot. The officers and soldiers looked disdainful. They didn't want to earn something to eat, but just wanted to get something for nothing. Seeing that he refused to let him go, Lu Bachan grabbed his sleeve and said, "Sir, please enjoy the food. The little one is starving to death." When the officer and soldier saw that the beggars were all begging for him, he pushed Lu Bachan away with a look of disgust. "Go away, you stinky beggar, you are begging for food on me." Lu Bachan was pushed by him and fell to the ground pretending to be weak. Seeing the officer and soldier glaring at him again, he immediately got up on his hands and knees and ran towards the town. "Stinky beggar, don't be angry." The officer and soldier brushed his sleeve several times before being grabbed by Lu Bachan, feeling disgusted. As soon as Lu Bachan ran into the town, he immediately put aside his rogue appearance. Turning around, he looked at the officers and soldiers at the door with cold eyes. He gritted his teeth before turning around. He wiped it on his face again, fiddled with his hair, tidied it up a bit, and then found a medical clinic in the town. Fortunately, although this town is small, it does have 2 medical clinics. Lu Bachan compared them and entered one of them. After much effort, he persuaded a doctor to follow him to treat Kui Sheng. Of course, it may also be the reason why Lu Bachan revealed a handful of golden beans. When Lu Bachan saw that the other party agreed to visit the doctor, he was extremely happy. He also bought some wound medicine and some commonly used medicines in the medical center, and then hurriedly pulled the other party out of the medical center. When I was leaving the town, I saw the aroma of meat wafting from a steamed stuffed bun shop. I couldn't help but go up and buy dozens of them. I asked the other party to give up a piece of baguette, wrapped them in my arms, and followed the doctor out of town. Leaving the town went smoothly, no one checked. He left the town very smoothly. The old doctor glanced at him and narrowed his eyes. If he is a treacherous person, I won't save him. Lu Bachan was very hungry. As soon as he left the town, he couldn't help but reach into his bag and take out some steamed buns to eat. I finished one in 2 or 3 mouthfuls, and when I was about to reach out for the second one, I heard the doctor say this. He was stunned for a moment. He also knew that the other party recognized him as the person in the painting. He immediately put the furoshiki on the ground and clasped his fists at the old doctor. "Thank you very much, doctor, for coming with me to treat illnesses and save people. I am not a treacherous person. I, Lu Bachan, swear to God that I have never done anything to disgrace my family, the court, and the people. If there is any false statement, may the sky strike with lightning." People nowadays have a natural reverence for swearing and swearing seriously. Lu Bachan swore an oath, and the old doctor saw that his eyes were clear and his words were good. He looked like he was not an evildoer. I believed what he said. Follow him to the small broken village. Lu Bachan looked at the doctor, the medicine on his back, and the buns he was holding tightly in his arms. He felt very happy. There was food, a doctor came to treat the marshal, and he also had money. After the marshal's injury was cured, they could go all the way south to Renzo to find a wife. His son is almost 4 years old and he has never met him. By then, after seeing his wife and son and having enough food, if the marshal wanted to recruit troops, he would accompany him. He and the marshal went to Kyoto to avenge Feng Xiang's thousands of soldiers. Lu Bachan thought happily, and saw Go Wa looking at the door from a distance. He was very happy and said loudly, "Guwa. I'm back to buy you steamed buns. They are all stuffed with big meat, there are dozens of them, I can make you eat enough this time." When Guwa saw him coming back, he rushed towards him. He grabbed him with a sad look on his face. "General, you are back. Go and have a look. The marshal has been calling you. He has been calling your name. He has been shouting, go and see him." After saying that, I cried, tears falling down. Lu Bachan was in a daze. When he came to his senses, he stuffed the buns in Go Wa's arms and ran towards the house. Bo Chang. When Lu Bachan heard Kui Sheng's vague cry, his whole body was heartbroken. He hurriedly ran to him, knelt down, and held his hand. "Marshal, I'm here, Bo Chang is here." There was a lump in my throat, and I tried my best to hold it back. "Bo Chang." Kui Sheng's eyes lit up when he saw it was him. "Hey, Marshal, I'm here. I've hired a doctor for you. Just be obedient and let the doctor treat your injuries. When you're well, Bo Chang will accompany you wherever you want to go." Kui Sheng shook his head gently. "It can't be cured, it can't be cured." "Don't say that. The doctor I hired is famous. He will definitely cure you." "Doctor." The doctor was outside the door. When he heard Lu Bachan calling him, he hurriedly entered. I checked Kui Sheng's pulse, looked at his injuries, and then opened his eyelids to see. Seeing that his pupils were dilated, he knew that his time had come. He said nothing, glanced at Lu Bachan, and walked out silently. Seeing him like this, Lu Bachan understood instantly. Extremely sad in my heart. There was a sob in his throat. "Marshal, don't be afraid, Bo Chang is with you." Kui Sheng had a smile on his face. "Bo Chang, I'm not afraid. You are with me. I am happy to have you by my side when I die." "Marshal." Lu Bachan finally couldn't bear it anymore and burst into tears. "Don't cry, everyone will die, it's just sooner or later, Feng Xiang, so many soldiers in Feng Xiang took their lives for me, I feel ashamed of them, I'll go down to accompany them." Lu Bachan shook his head desperately, with tears flying. "Marshal, it's not your fault, it's not the fault of our Feng Xiang army. It's all Wu Quanzhong. He usurped the throne and let tens of thousands of Feng Xiang army fill the road for him. He and I swear no difference stand." Kui Sheng grabbed him tightly. "Bo Chang, don't avenge us. Go back to the south, go to the mountains, find your wife, raise your child well, don't fight him, and live well." "Marshal." Kui Sheng looked at him steadily and gave his final explanation. "Listen to me, don't take revenge, and live well." "Marshal." After Kui Sheng said those words, he gradually exhausted his energy. Panting heavily, he held Lu Bachan's hand tightly. "I really want to go back to Chang'an, go back and see, I can't help Feng Xiangjun, I can't help them." Before he finished speaking, his hand fell from Lu Bachan's palm. "Marshal." "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bha 11U. Chapter 324. Kui Sheng passed away forever with his attachment to Chang'an. Read. He was loyal to Shuochao throughout his life and fought for Shuochao until the last moment. He was worthy of Shuochao. But he felt guilty for the tens of thousands of Feng Xiang troops who followed him. He was ashamed of them. He went down to accompany them. Marshal! Guo listened to Lu Bachan's crying voice outside and rushed in hastily. Seeing that Kui Sheng had passed away so suddenly, I felt great pain in my heart. Tears poured down my face and fell on Kui Sheng, crying loudly. Marshal, Marshal, the general has called a doctor for you. You will be fine soon. Don't sleep, don't sleep. Lu Bachan picked up his hand that was hanging on one side, held it in his palm, and rubbed it again and again, but failed to warm it up. It broke our hearts. He put Kui Sheng's hand on his forehead and cried. Marshal, I, Lu Bachan, swear that I will avenge this for you. I will avenge this for my Fengxiang army. So that you can feel at ease, Marshal, you are not ashamed of them. You are not. Lu Bachan and Guo stayed with Kui Sheng for a whole day and night. When the doctor helped them bring the coffin, shrouds and other items, they buried Kui Sheng and found an open place to bury Kui Sheng. Lu Bachan and Guo, dressed in mourning clothes, kowtowed to Kui Sheng's grave and scattered wine and paper money. There is only one grave mound and no monument is dared to be erected. Standing alone on the slope, Lu Bachan felt sad in his heart. Marshal, I have to let you stay here for the time being. When I make arrangements, I will move your grave and bury you in the Kui family's ancestral grave in Chang'an. After saying that, he knelt down and kowtowed, took off his mourning clothes, burned them in front of the grave, and then turned around and left. Guo also imitated his example and burned his filial piety clothes. When he left, he looked back again and again with tears in his eyes. Thank you very much, Dr. Song, for your help. I cannot thank you enough for your kindness. If I, Lu Bachan, are needed in the future, I will go through fire and water. Lu Bachan clasped his fists at Dr. Song. Dr. Song held up his hand and said, General Lu's words are serious. Marshal Kui of Fengxiang has also heard about it. He is a loyal man who serves his country. It is a pity that it has fallen to this point. I can't do anything else for him. Just buy some things for him after his death. If it weren't for Dr. Song's help, we wouldn't be able to give the marshal a decent face. Thank you very much. Lu Bachan thanked Dr. Song and took Guo on the road again. The doctor looked at their backs and let out a long sigh. The world is in chaos, and good people will not live long. He sighed and left. Guo followed Lu Bachan and saw that he was silent, so he did not dare to speak. But he couldn't hold it in any longer. General, where are we going? Lu Bachan kept walking. Go, don't call me general anymore. Call me brother. It's easier to walk outside. Yes. Brother. Then where are we going? Going to Renzhou to find my sister-in-law and my eldest nephew. Lu Bachan stopped and looked south. He clenched his fist at his side. After a long while, he shook his head and said, I'm not going. Wu Quanzhong is still sending people everywhere to look for me. I can't go back and hurt them. This Wu Quanzhong is hateful. Wu Quanzhong also ordered someone to draw a picture of the general, and sent people everywhere to look for the general with his picture. Let them not even dare to enter the city. Guo wanted to kill him to satisfy his hatred. The general was even unable to go back to see his wife and son. Then where are we going? Go and avenge the marshal. Ah! No. General, no. The marshal asked us not to seek revenge on Wu Quanzhong. And there are only two of us. The marshal's great revenge must be avenged. I didn't say I won't retaliate. It's just that we need to think about it in the long term. There were only two of them, and they were going up to kill someone. We crossed Henan and headed for Yanzhou. I told Qian Quan to escort the prince and princess to Shandong. Mukong received the favor from Emperor Shuo and had never taken a fancy to Wu Quanzhong. It should protect them. What if Qian Quan joins Mukong? Lu Bachan paused, then we will also take refuge in Mukong. We will use Mukong's power to defeat the squid. Okay. Let's attack the squid. Revenge the marshal. Go Wa followed up with Lu Bachan with big strides. General, I will go wherever you go from now on. I am determined to follow you. Good. The two of them avoided people all the way and headed to Yanzhou. Su Qingyu didn't know that Lu Bachan first disappeared and then was hunted down with obstacles set up. Ma Mingwen sent several people to look for him quietly, but there was no news about him. So he kept it secret from Su Qingnao and didn't tell her about Lu Bachan's disappearance. Before autumn arrived, Qingyang wrote a letter to Su Qingsong. Su Qingyu took the letter to shopkeeper Ding and asked him to help the caravan heading to Quanzhou send it, and asked them to get a reply. Shopkeeper Ding asked her to rest assured that she would do as she was told. The caravan was really dedicated and took what Su Qingyu explained seriously. Thanks to Su Qingyu, the Yangfeng's business more than doubled. Moreover, she is still the goddaughter of the King of Yu. The King of Yu does not even have half of his biological children. Although Su Qingyu is a daughter-in-law, her status has become more valuable. The Yangfeng didn't dare to neglect. When they arrived in Quanzhou, they sent a steward to inquire about Su Qingsong's office and found him. Master Xiao Yi, you should read the letter here. Renzo is still waiting for Mr. Xiao Yi's reply. I don't dare to neglect it. I will definitely go back with the reply this time. Okay, sorry to trouble you, please wait. Su Qingsong went inside and read the letter. His parents, brothers, and sisters sent him another large package of things, and his parents also sent him the money they had saved. The letter asked him to go to Renzo and work under Qing's godfather. This way the family can be together. Su Qingsong was very moved. He also understands now that no one in the court is not good at being an official. If you have connections and background, you will be promoted faster, otherwise you will be stuck at the bottom for the rest of your life. The relationship between Qing Lao and his godfather is so good. In the future, instead of caring about him, he will only suppress him. Moreover, he also wants to be with his parents and family. His son Teng Teng is almost 1 year old and has not met his aunts yet. Now that his son can walk, his parents must miss their grandson. Su Qingsong opened the letter and wanted to write a reply, but before he could write, he had to discuss it with his wife and ask her if she had anything to say. This is what a family is. After leaving the inner room, he said to the steward of the Yangfeng, "Thank you for the trip. I want to go home. I will write a reply tonight and send it to you tomorrow. Is that possible?" When the man heard this, he realized that they were not in a hurry to leave anyway, so he said, "Okay, sir, just send them to our Yangfeng number 1 tomorrow." "Thank you." After returning to the small courtyard, as soon as they entered the courtyard, Su Qingsong raised his voice and said, "Ruyu, Ruyu, my parents have sent something." Gu Ruyu was leaning on the couch, watching her son crawling. When she heard Su Qingsong's words, her heart skipped a beat. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Xiaoye 11U. Chapter 325. Su Qingsong's son Teng Teng hurriedly crawled toward the door when he heard his father's voice. "Oh, son, you know it's daddy who's back. You're so good." Su Qingsong put down the things in his arms, leaned over to pick up his son, and tossed him twice, making his son very excited. After playing around with his son for a while, he turned to Gu Ruyu on the couch and told him what Father Su and Mother Su said in the letter. "My parents want us to go to Renzo, and I want to go there too. When the time comes, I will follow Qingyu's godfather, and things will go more smoothly. And we Teng Teng can also see his grandparents from time to time. There are also aunts and uncles, we the family can be together, and you can take care of my parents for me." Gu Ruyu's heart skipped a beat, knowing that he would say that. Su Kingsong's happiness was not infected. After thinking for a while, he said, I knew about this when my parents wrote last time. The last time my parents wrote to me? When was it? Why didn't I know? Guruya paused and then said warmly, the last time you went to Tanzhou with King Chu, I originally wanted to wait until you came back to tell you, but then I forgot about it when my son made trouble. Su Qingsong didn't care after hearing this. She must have really forgotten. It's quite hard for her to take care of Teng Teng. Such a young child doesn't understand anything, so it's the time when she cries. Then what do you say? After I write a reply to my parents in the evening, we will say goodbye and go to Renzhou to meet my parents as a family. Guruya pursed her lips. He saw Su Qingsong holding his son and playing with him, saying that he would see his grandparents soon, and asked his son if he was happy. Guruya felt agitated. I do not want to go. Su Qingsong paused while holding his son's hand. Seeing Guruya's expressionless face, she called the girl in and took her son out. Why don't you want to go? My parents, brothers, and sisters are all in Renzhou. When we go there, the whole family will be reunited. That's your family, not mine, Guruya blurted out. After saying that, he felt a little regretful and glanced at Su Qingsong. Su Qingsong looked at her expressionlessly. I didn't mean that. Seeing Su Qingsong's cold eyes, he was a little scared. I know what you mean. You are a lady from an official family. Although you are just a concubine, you are still an official. I am just an illiterate peasant. You are wronged by marrying me. Look at your brothers-in-law. Even though the Yu family has become a high-ranking official, I am still a small 7th-grade captain, so you are not willing to accept it. I did not mean that. Guruya was very annoyed. Although she was really dissatisfied with the marriage arranged by her aunt and looked down upon Su Qingsong before, now she has given birth to a son for him, and he treats her well and there is no other woman around her, so she wants to be with him. Live your life well. She wanted to see her husband succeed. I want to follow him and live a good life as a Shangguan wife. But she didn't want to go to Renzhou, serve her parents-in-law in the mountains, and stay in the mountains all her life. She can't wear colorful dresses or go out to socialize, so what fun does she have? After thinking about it, Wen Yan persuaded, Master Ma has been named King of Chu by the imperial court, and everyone who followed him has been promoted. Why do you want to leave at this time? Do you want to give the opportunity to others? Furthermore, what if the King of Chu also ascends the throne in the future? As a person who once saved his life, are you still afraid that you will not have the chance to be promoted? You have been with Lord Ma for so long and are familiar with each other, why would you want to go to someone else's side? Fighting for food with other people's close subordinates. That's Jing's godfather, no one else. He won't treat me badly. Besides, my father, mother, brother, sister, and the whole family are all over there. When Su Qingsong saw his wife's gentle voice, he also persuaded her kindly. Guruyi didn't listen. You also said that you did it, not by relatives. My father is now the right-hand man of King Chu. Why don't you want to rely on him, but what do you want to do? That is your father-in-law. And King Chu will take care of him soon. Let's go to Tanzhou. If he becomes independent in the future, won't we have a share in serving the dragon? Su Qingsong didn't know how to persuade his wife. Could he tell her that his father-in-law didn't think much of him? His status and background were too low, and his father-in-law only saw a few other sons-in-law who could bring him benefits. And he doesn't want a high official or a big salary, he just wants to be with his parents and family. When the family is together, even if they only eat rice bran, they feel sweet in their hearts. As entangled as Su Qingsong is Aunt Su's family in Fujian. Having received a letter from her younger brother and his family, Aunt Su was already tempted and wanted to pack up and join her younger brother and his family. The family followed Qixia's husband to Fujian. They were not used to it at first, but it took them a while to get used to it. But they were better than Su's father and mother. Huang Shenzi was a man who cared about the people. When the army arrived in Fujian, he trained and grew grain at the same time. My aunt and uncle then followed the army to farm the land. While doing familiar work, her mother was not in the same situation as when she was nesting in the small courtyard of Chenzhou, not knowing where to put her hands and feet. Although they were not used to the climate and food, they gradually got used to it. Originally, my son-in-law had never received a good promotion. When he heard a letter from his younger brother saying that Qingyu's place was pretty good and it was peaceful in the mountains, he thought of asking his son-in-law to join Su Qingyu's godfather. My aunt and uncle were very moved when they received the letter and wanted to take their family there. But he didn't expect to wait until the court gave Huang Shenzi the news of being crowned king of Fujian. As soon as Huang Shenzi sent the letter to the king, all his subordinates immediately went to heaven, and all of them followed suit and moved up the ranks. Qixia's son-in-law was also promoted to a minor official. Like everyone else, he was thinking that when the king of Fujian became emperor, their subordinates would also be able to follow the trend and drink spicy food. The whole family felt a little enthusiastic after hearing what he said. My ancestors have been farmers for several lifetimes, and there has never been any smoke coming out of their ancestral graves. If Qixia becomes an official's wife, wouldn't their family also be able to change their appearance? And Zhou Dejiang might also be able to get an official position with his brother-in-law. Moreover, Jin Hai can also follow him to see the world. If he goes to the mountains, he may not even know the world outside. The children don't want to go, so what will happen to the aunt and uncle? They are old and have to rely on their children to support them, so they are not planning to go to Renzhou. After making a decision, I wrote a reply to Su Qingyu. Before, I had not been able to wait for Su Qingsong's letter and the news from my aunt, but now, their letters arrived at the same time. Father Su was very excited. Quick, open it and take a look. What did your brother and your aunt say in the letter? Are both of them coming? Then he had to prepare a house for them, help them build a kong in the house, and tidy it up. It's cold and humid in the mountains in winter, and most people may not be able to adapt to it. We can't leave my sister and husband in the cold. Moreover, the grandson is only 1 year old, so we cannot let the child get cold. I heard that Xiaobao suffered from frostbite in the winter when he first entered the mountains. Father Su was excited. A family should be in order. But when Qingyang finished his belief, he was stunned. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Jiaoye 11U. Chapter 326. He can still understand that his sister and her husband don't want to come over. Why doesn't the son want to bring his grandson over? Su's father's eyes darkened when he heard Qingyang read the letter. It's good. Your aunt and their family are living well, so dad can feel relieved. Qing Song, he is following the king of Chu now, maybe he will have some good fortune. His father-in-law will not stand idly by. It's good, it's good. After Su's father said these words without raising his head, he turned around and entered the house. Su Qingyu felt that his figure looked a little lonely. It's okay, you can leave. I'm going to see your father, Mother Su said, and followed him into the house. Su Qingliu and Su Qingnao looked at each other in shock. Sister, Dad must be sad. Qing Xing felt a little sad. She knew that after having a sister-in-law, her brother would not come to reunite with them. My sister-in-law wants to live the glamorous life of her parents' family. I don't want to be a mountain man. Brother probably wants to come to us. He doesn't like the life of socializing every day, Qingyang said suddenly. Su Qingyu looked at him. Maybe Qingyang was the one who understood Qing Song best. Sighing, my brother is getting married, and he no longer only cares about his parents and us. He also has his wife and children. They are the ones who will accompany him to the end. Naturally, he can't just care about his own wishes. In the room, Sue's mother was also feeling disappointed. She missed her son and grandson. I originally thought that after receiving their letter, my son would come to find them, and then the family would live together happily. Even if my son was in another state or city, I would be able to see him often in the future. But I didn't expect my son to have his own ideas. Don't be sad. When my son gets married, he has to take care of his own little family. The same goes for my sister. She has a large family, and it depends on the wishes of her children. We just need to know that she is living well there. Seeing Sue's father sullen and silent, Sue's mother advised again, "You used to be just worried that your sister would have a bad life, but now that your nephew and son-in-law have good luck, Dejong will also have good luck in the future. Her family will live well in the future. Why are you worried about your sister coming to join us?" Sue's father wiped his face. "I don't necessarily want them to come over. I just. Mother Sue sighed, "I know what you are thinking. You just think about the whole family, all together, and having relatives walking around to talk to. Do you miss Kyoto Village?" Sue's father said nothing. "Our family is not doing well in Kyoto Village. Why do you keep thinking about it? Now we live with Ching now and the others. Besides Ching Song, we have several children by our side. What else are you dissatisfied with? Look at the village. Those who escaped from the north don't have a complete house. Everyone lives here happily and thinks it's good here. Some people even sell themselves to prostitutes. They still live happily every day. You are the one not satisfied." Sue's mother couldn't understand Sue's father's thoughts. "I'm not dissatisfied, and I don't want to go back. Just, I think about it occasionally." Sue's father said, "That is my hometown." They had been married for decades, so Mother Sue had no idea what he was thinking. "Don't make the children sad. The children are with us now. We have food and drink, and the children are obedient and filial. You are still thinking about other things." In the room, the couple were talking quietly. Outside the house, Su Qingyu and others looked at the house and did not dare to come close to disturb them. "Dad probably misses our hometown," Su Qingyu said. She could understand Sue's father's feelings. "No matter how miserable the people and things in my hometown are, I will always think about them in my heart. Sometimes I see a person from my hometown on the road and hear the local accent, which makes me feel very friendly. What's there to think about back home? My step-grandma is not good to us at all. My parents go to the fields before dawn and don't come back until dark. A few uncles are lazy and my grandparents never talk about them. Dad doesn't work much." Grandpa asked Dad if he was dissatisfied with him. Ching Xing doesn't want Kyoto Village at all. If possible, she wanted to stay far away from them and not even mention them. Su Qingliu didn't have a good impression of Kyoto Village either. Su Qingnao looked at them and turned her attention to Qing Yang. "Go and talk to Dad." Fortunately, Qing Yang, his son, was by his side. Yes, Qing Yang nodded to her and went into the house. Qing Xing snorted, "I don't like my sister-in-law. It must be because my sister-in-law didn't let my brother come. She made Dad sad, and I don't like her." "Don't talk nonsense," Su Qingyu scolded her. Qing Xing pursed her lips and stopped talking. "I'm going to find Yaya and Xiaobao." He stamped his feet, turned around and ran away. Today is the holiday for Qing Yang and Xiaobao. They have a day off. Xiaobao is very happy when he sees that he can stay at home all day today. He took his sister and wandered around the village with his pony. Su Qingyu said once that the foal cannot be kept in the shed all the time and should be allowed to go out for a walk from time to time. He listened. Usually, whenever he has free time, he takes his beloved pony out for a walk. Extremely diligent. The two dogs he had brought since childhood have grown up, and now he doesn't think it's fun anymore. He doesn't care about the two dogs, and only misses his pony every day. The two dogs were very close to him, and they almost followed Xiaobao wherever he went. A few days later, in the evening, Ma Xian and Xiaobao came back together. After dinner at Su's house, Ma Xian said that his family had arrived in Reyeshu and he wanted to go to Reyeshu. In order not to delay forging Xiaobao's muscles and bones, he wanted to take Xiaobao to Reyeshu with him. Su Qingyu thought about it, and she happened to have something she wanted to discuss with her godfather, and Kui Yueying had been sending things to her family, and she hadn't seen her for a long time, so they happened to go over to meet Kui Yueying together. He said he would go together. When Ma Xian heard this, he was very happy. That's great. I was worried before that I didn't know how to coax Xiaobao to go with me. It would be great if you want to go with me. Although this child is obedient, he can be seen every day. Because of you, if I don't see you for a day or two, I'm afraid he'll rebel. Su Qingyu laughed. If she leaves home for a period of time, Xiaobao will be accompanied by Su's father, Su's mother, and others. Although he will be unhappy, he usually won't cry. But when Xiaobao was asked to leave her and her family, she and her family were not around, for fear that the child would really cry. After deciding, Su Qingyu told her family. Su's father and Su's mother took it very seriously when they heard that their mother and son were going to Reyeshu to see Ma Mingwen. Su's father, Su's mother, and others personally went to the village and market town to collect many rare things and asked her to take them with her. We have been collecting your godfather's things, but there is nothing to give him. These are all rare things in our mountains. Bringing them to your godfather will also make him happy. Su Qingnao felt a little headache when she saw that Father Su and Mother Su had packed up a huge pile. Fortunately, Ma Xian and a few of his men were following her, and she had Qingyang and Si Yuan following her, so she could take them with her. The group packed up and set off to Reyeshu. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Xiaoye 11U. Chapter 327. Renzhou and Reyeshu are now under the rule of Ma Mingwen. There is no shortage of food, the government is clear, the people live and work in peace and contentment, and there are very few people sleeping on the road. Read. The group entered Reyeshu smoothly. If everything was like this, people would be able to travel with peace of mind. It would be a peaceful time, Ma Xian said with emotion. There will come a time. Now that Yu is so peaceful and stable under the rule of his godfather, at least the people of Yu are blessed. No, although your godfather was pushed to the top, he did much better than elsewhere. With that said, the group entered the Prince Yu's mansion in Reyeshu. Looking at the large gilded characters Prince Yu's mansion on the plaque, everyone felt majestic and majestic. Wow, the characters are so big, they look so good, Xiaobao cried out. Uncle will teach you how to read, Yu, Wang, Fu. Prince Yu's mansion. Ah, I know, my grandfather is the king of Yu. My grandfather lives here, right? Our little one is so smart, Ma Xian praised him. Grandpa Ma, Xiaobao is so smart. Xiaobao raised his head proudly. Su Qingyu looked at her son with some disgust. Sometimes she was afraid that her son would be too proud and wanted to educate him. But he looks quite sensible. It made Su Qingyu feel a little embarrassed to start, and she was afraid of overcorrecting. The arrival of Su Qingjao and Ma Xian made Ma Mingwen and Kui Yueying very happy. Ma Xian exchanged pleasantries with Ma Mingwen and then went to meet his family. Ma Mingwen and Kui Yueying hugged Xiaobao and made love. It's been a while since we last met, and Xiaobao has grown up a lot. Xiaobao, do you remember me? Kui Yueying saw Xiaobao being held in Ma Mingwen's arms and teased him. I don't remember you very much. But I know you are Grandma Kui. You often send me delicious and fun things. Xiaobao likes you. Xiaobao likes the things you send. Kui Yueying really loves him to death. For such a tiny little kid, it's time to have fun. Can Grandma Kui give you a hug? Grandma Kui will take you to see your grandfather's house, then take you to eat delicious food, and then let your mother talk to your grandfather, okay? Xiaobao glanced at Su Qingyu and Ma Mingwen, nodded, okay, and stretched out his hand towards Kui Yueying. Kui Yueying picked him up in her arms, kissed him again, and then walked out with him in her arms. Qingyang and others also followed out. Su Qingyu and Ma Mingwen were left talking. Look, they have built such a big house now. Only your Aunt Kui and I live in it. They wrote letters asking you to move here, but you refused. Ma Mingwen sighed. Su Qingyu said with a smile, I can't sit still. I have a lot of ideas and a lot of things to do. And my parents prefer to stay in the mountains. They like to work with the fields. Forget it. You run out every day now, and only Si Yuan follows you. I'm afraid you don't have enough manpower. Do you want to transfer more people to you? Su Qingyu shook her head, no need for godfather. It's enough to think about the source. I even wanted to return them to you, but they were delayed by following me. She asked Si Yuan that although they said they wanted to stay in the mountains, which man didn't want to make contributions? Si Yuan and the others followed her, but they didn't get any benefits. You don't have to bear any burden. I'll ask them later. If they have other ideas, I'll call them back. I'll send someone else to you. You can't go out alone. It's still very chaotic outside. Good. Seeing that she had agreed, Ma Mingwen smiled at her and said, I expected that Ma Xian would take Xiaobao with him, but I didn't expect that you would be willing to follow. Su Qingyu laughed and said, I'm afraid that if Xiaobao starts crying, Uncle Xian won't be able to coax him. Godfather, don't look at him. He is usually very good, but when he loses his temper, most people can't stand it. Ma Mingwen laughed, I heard about it. This kid doesn't care about the hardship and exhaustion of training. He goes to the training ground on time every day to follow the training. No matter how sore his legs are, he never sheds tears. He just threw his chopsticks because the food didn't taste good. Su Qingyu stroked her forehead, this child doesn't know who to follow. He has been picky about food since he was a child. Neither you nor Bachan are picky about food. I really don't know who this kid is following. After Ma Mingwen finished speaking, he thought of Lu Bachan and his smile faded. After a while, he said, since you are here, stay in Reishu for a while. Your Aunt Kui doesn't like to socialize, so you just stay in the house to talk to her more. Su Qingyu nodded, then I'll stay a few more days. He added, I came here this time to do something else. I heard that Tiantai and Yongjia are also very mountainous. I don't know what is in the mountains over there. Is it possible to plant tea trees and ash trees? I want to go and have a look. Ma Mingwen was stunned, I haven't paid attention to the Yongjia side of the rooftop. It's very mountainous. I heard that it was very chaotic before, and the people didn't have enough to eat. After saying that, I started to think about it. He has received many benefits from the mountains, and now he knows that the produce in the mountains is no worse than the fertile fields outside. There are mountain delicacies, and you can also grow tea and harvest white wax. Even if we can't grow food and have precious mountain products, maybe there are still iron ore and other minerals hidden in the mountains. Others thought the mountains were poor, but he saw from Su Qingyu that the mountains were truly a treasure. After thinking for a while, he nodded to Su Qingyu, okay, then you stay here a little longer, and I'll ask officials from Yongjia Tiantai to come see you and tell you about the situation in the two places. Isn't it too much trouble? I can just take someone over there. Ma Mingwen thought about it and nodded, that's fine. Then I will let someone who knows Tiantai Yongjia come to see you and tell you about the situation. When you go there, I will let the officials of Yongjia Tiantai receive you. Su Qingmei couldn't refuse, so she had to agree. After discussing the matter, Su Qingmei went to the backyard to find Kui Yueying and Xiaobao. Ma Mingwen called Si Yuan and Si Yuan in. Asked them if they had any other ideas, and if they wanted to be transferred back, he would arrange positions for them. Si Yuan and Si Yuan looked at each other, thought about it, and thanked Ma Mingwen. Then he said, "We are used to living in the mountains. It is also happy to live in the mountains with the young lady. The young lady treats us well in terms of money, and we have saved a lot in the future. We will settle down in Xiangeng village and live a quiet life." Si Yuan looked at Si Yuan and said to Ma Mingwen, "Neither of us has too much ambition, we just want to live a quiet life." Now Si Yuan has fallen in love with a girl. If everything goes well, he can marry her and settle down. I also want to be like him. Oh? Si Yuan has found the girl he wants to marry? Does King Mei know? Si Yuan blushed. "Hong, miss, you don't know yet. I haven't told you yet. I wanted to tell you after I returned from Reishu. This is a good thing. A man should get married first and then start a career. He should make his family stable before he can work hard outside. You should do the big things first and leave bloodlines for your family. If you have other ideas in the future, come to me. I always have a place for you." "Yes. Thank you, sir. You have been very kind to my brother and me. My brother and I will never forget it." Si Yuan and Si Yuan talked smoothly with Ma Mingwen, but Ma Xian's communication with his family was not so smooth. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha 11U. Chapter 328. Ma Xian's family originally lived in Chang'an. Originally, when he was in the army, his family stayed in Chang'an. Later, Ma Mingwen returned to the army, and Ma Xian followed Ma Mingwen again. Conquests everywhere. His family never moved. Later, Ma Mingwen settled Ma Xian in the mountains, and Ma Xian liked it very much. It was quiet in the mountains, there was no killing, there was no smell of blood, and I slept soundly. He wanted to bring his family back. When he wrote the letter, his family members gave him various excuses. Later, he thought that since his children were married and had their own families, and they were living well in Chang'an, it was okay. Unexpectedly, Ma Mingwen won the title of King of Yu, so he received a letter from home saying that Chang'an was in chaos and that he wanted to bring his family over. Ma Xian was very happy. "I made preparations to welcome my family early, thinking that they might not be used to living in the south, so I made a lot of preparations in advance. I plan to build another courtyard next to the barracks and live with Dr. Mu's family. If I have any minor ailments, the doctor will be there, and I will feel at ease in life. Then, open a vegetable garden in front of and behind the house. You can plant whatever you want. Then, make the yard larger so that your grandchildren will have room to run around." He thought very well, but his family disagreed. "Our family has been in the Ma family for several generations. We finally came to your place and were granted good status. The whole family no longer has to serve others. You have followed the King of Yu since you were a child. This person who fought in the north and south is the most trusted person of the King of Yu. People. Now the smart people are surrounding the King of Yu and living a good life. It would be better for you to run away to the mountains. It's okay for you to go alone, but you want to drag the whole family with you. Then why are our family coming from Chang'an? We might as well stay in Chang'an." "Yes, Dad. Although Chang'an is a bit chaotic now, it is the imperial capital, and its prosperity is not comparable to other cities. We came to the territory of the King of Yu, don't we just want to follow the King of Yu and live a good life? Why should we be a family? Live in the mountains." Ma Xian's wife and children disagreed. After Ma Xian listened to what his wife and son said to each other, the hope in his heart sank little by little. He was silent and didn't say a word. At the end, he said, "Okay, you have your ideas, and I also have what I want to do. Now I am in the mountains, and I am also helping the king of you. The king of you needs the place, and the mountain people there also need the king of you. Dad, you are getting older. Why don't you stay in the city and enjoy the blessings? Transportation in the mountains is inconvenient and access is inconvenient. And based on your relationship with the king of you, how can you be worse than others?" "That's right. My son is right. If you don't think about yourself, you have to think about the children. Isn't it more convenient than others for you to build a bridge for the children in front of the king of you?" Ma Xian listened silently, scanning his wife, children, and grandchildren one by one. The oldest grandson is 10 years old, and the youngest one is 5 or 6 years old. Children want a good life, what's wrong with that? He thought there was nothing wrong with having children and grandchildren around his knees. "That's it, let them be. Okay, it's up to you. I will recommend you to the king of you. If you are really capable, you will naturally be appreciated by the king of you without relying on me. I will also go back to my mountains." "Dad, after all this, do you still want to go back to the mountains?" "Yes. I have to go back. Thousands of people in the mountains are still waiting for me to train. They need me, and I have to go back. The king of you has so many talented people, so you must go. They are still young and have a lot of opportunities. I am old and don't want to compete for military glory anymore. And their young people don't have as much experience as me. You damn old man, you don't think about your children and grandchildren. Why don't your children and grandchildren enjoy the blessings because of your merits? You don't think about your children and grandchildren at all now. I'm old and my energy is running out. Whatever kind of life you want to live, just earn it yourself, and live a life with whatever ability you have." Ma Xian slowly walked out of the house regardless of the family members behind him calling him. Walking into King Yu's spacious garden with lush flowers and plants, I felt a chill in my chest. When he was young, he fought in the north and south, leaving his wife and children at home. Now his children no longer listen to him. He must have brought it upon himself to grow old alone. "Master." Ma Xian put away his emotions and looked towards the voice. "It's Qing Yang. Why are you here alone? Sister and the king of you are discussing things." Xiaobao was also taken away by Aunt Kui. "I came to the garden for a walk. Aren't the flowers and plants in this garden nice to look at?" Ma Xian gathered his thoughts and looked at the flowers and plants with Qing Yang. Qing Yang nodded while looking at it. "It looks good. But I still like the mountains. The trees are towering into the clouds and lush. They look better than those artificially built. The flowers and trees in the mountains are more comfortable to look at." Ma Xian looked at him and smiled. "Master also likes to see the trees in the mountains. Even in the cracks of rocks, they can grow into towering trees." Qing Yang saw something was wrong with his mood, thought for a while and said, "Master, are you in a bad mood?" Ma Xian was stunned and looked at him. "Yes. Is it because Master and the others don't want to go to the mountains with Master?" "Yeah. They don't want to go." After speaking, he took a step forward. Qing Yang was behind him, looking at his slightly lonely back, feeling a little uncomfortable. He took 2 steps forward and walked up to him. "Master, I will always be with you. My second sister said that once you are a teacher, you will always be a father. From now on, I will accompany you and talk to you. No, I've made you lonely, and I'll take care of you until you die." After hearing this, Ma Xian looked at him blankly. His eyes suddenly became hot, and he stretched out his big hand to rub his head. "Okay. You will be by Master's side from now on." Ma Xinlai was quite emotional. This is a simple child, a child with a clean heart. Ma Xian felt very comforted. Qingyang didn't want him to be sad and advised, "Master, my father always thinks about the people and things in his hometown when we are with him. Master and the others can't get used to living in the mountains, so let them live in the city. From now on, you can if you want them, I will accompany you to visit them from time to time." "Okay, okay. Let them live in the city. Master still lives in the mountains. Master, don't worry, I will always be with you." "Okay. Master is not alone. You are with me." The two people were talking in the garden, and Xiaobao ran over holding something in both hands. "Grandpa Ma, uncle, Grandpa Ma, uncle." Ma Xian immediately laughed. "Hey, we're here. Grandpa Ma." Hey, Ma Xian walked towards him and leaned over. "What are you getting?" "It's wufa cake. Grandma Kui had people make it for Xiaobao. It's delicious. There are 5 kinds of delicious fillings in it. Xiaobao will give it to you and your uncle to eat. Can you guess what's in it?" "You got it for Grandpa? You're so good." Xiaobao raised his head. "Xiaobao is the best." "Well, Xiaobao is the best." After Ma Xian praised him, he took a round cake from his hand and looked at it. "Grandpa has eaten this wufa cake." "Has Grandpa Ma eaten it?" Xiaobao was a little disappointed, thinking that Grandpa Ma hadn't eaten it. But he quickly realized, there are differences between wufa cakes and wufa cakes. The cakes made by my mother are different from those made by others. Maybe the fillings inside are also different from those of others. Yes, Xiaobao is right. "Then Grandpa, come and try it." "Uncle, here it is. Uncle also told me what's in it. If you're right, there will be a reward." Qingyang continued and asked, "What is the reward?" "Madam, she has a tender heart." Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 329. "I will reward you with another delicious wufa cake," Xiaobao said with some pride. Red. Ma Xian and Qingyang looked at each other and laughed. Xiaobao looked at this and that, got angry and stamped his feet. "Humph, I won't let you eat. I'll go find my mother and grandpa." "Humph." He pouted and twisted his little body and ran away. Ma Xian also wanted to fish him back, but the kid ran very fast and he couldn't catch him. "Grandpa, Grandpa." As soon as Ma Mingwen finished talking to Si Yuan, he heard Xiaobao's voice and raised the corner of his mouth. "Hey, Xiaobao." Xiaobao rushed towards Ma Mingwen in a flash. Ma Mingwen took him and hugged him. Seeing the little child being held in his arms, Ma Mingwen felt a little satisfied. "What do you want to do with Grandpa?" Xiaobao has brought delicious wufa cakes to Grandpa. After saying this, he looked back to see if the maid had followed. 5 blessing cakes, they are so delicious. Grandpa can't eat them normally. It's only after Xiaobao came that Grandpa can eat them. That's right. Grandpa is taking advantage of Xiaobao. He was very proud. Yes, Grandpa would like to thank Xiaobao for allowing Grandpa to eat such delicious wufa cakes. Then I'll give it all to Grandpa, not Grandpa Ma and Uncle. Humph. Ma Mingwen knew as soon as he heard that there must be a reason, so he teased him and made him happy. Su Qingyu took Xiaobao to live in Prince Yu's mansion for several days. Xiaobao is smart and clever, making Ma Mingwen and Kui Yueying laugh every day. Both of them are eager to leave Xiaobao in Prince Yu's palace. Ma Mingwen personally touched Xiaobao's muscles and bones, and took him to do boxing and kicking. He became more and more fond of this child. But the child is still too young. If you want to ask the child to stay, Su Qingyu can persuade him, but Xiaobao may not be willing. Ma Mingwen had no choice but to suppress her thoughts and decided to wait until Xiaobao was older. Xiaoduzi and others also liked Xiaobao very much. They took him to train at the school every day, took him to ride a big horse, put him on his neck and took him out to go shopping. Let Xiaobao be happy every day, looking like he is happy and unwilling to think about Shu. Every night before going to bed, this uncle said, that uncle said. Small mouth, keep going. Xiaobao was well protected by Father Su and Mother Su in the mountains. It was rare that he looked so happy. There were so many men of his father's age protecting him. They were holding him up, riding on his neck, and taking him to play. Xiaobao looked a little squeamish. They are completely different from at home. Su Qingyu looked at her son sleeping next to her. Maybe every boy should be accompanied by his father when he grows up. Only with the guidance of a father and the guidance of a father can one grow into a real man. It's just that his father doesn't know when he will return to his child. Xiaobao is almost 4 years old. I can remember things right away, but I still don't know what my father looks like. It's just that the world is like this, and many people are worse than her. I have been guarding Hanyeo for many years, and I don't know how many years I have been guarding, but I have never been able to expect my father to see his children. Su Qingyu sighed. She covered her son with a quilt and fell asleep. In a dilapidated earth temple in the north, Lu Bachan and Go Wa were lighting a fire to keep warm. Go Wa used the dagger he had with him to cut the frozen steamed buns into several thick slices, pierce them with branches, and put them on the fire to bake. Lu Bachan also held one in each hand, stretched it out on the flame, and flipped it from time to time. General, brother, how long does it take for us to leave Henan? It's almost time. We can now walk 80 miles a day. When we get to the big city ahead, we will buy 2 horses and the journey will be faster. Okay. Do we have enough money? Lu Bachan's men paused. If it doesn't work, we'll buy one. Well, just buy one, don't go hungry. The feeling of being hungry is too uncomfortable. Guo put the heated and softened steamed bun slices into his mouth and found that they were a little tasteless. Thinking of the jerky I ate before, I remember the jerky I ate from my sister-in-law that year. I tore it apart with my hands, put it in my mouth and chewed it. The taste was so delicious. After hearing what Go Wa said, Lu Bachan instantly felt that the steamed bun slices in his mouth no longer tasted good. She glared at him, can't you wait until I finish eating? How can I still eat it? Guo put the slow-motion movie in his hand under his eyes and looked at it again and again, but he couldn't eat any more. Seeing Lu Bachan holding a piece of steamed bun in a daze, he couldn't help but said, "Brother, how about we go back to find my sister-in-law and my eldest nephew? Don't you miss them?" I really want to. That. I can't go back now. I have to avenge the Marshal and Fengxiang army before I go back. Once I have my revenge, I will go back to the mountains to live a stable life with my wife, and never come out again. Guo was silent. Brother, do you think we can succeed in revenge? Lu Bachan put the steamed bun slices into his mouth and chewed fiercely. Yes. It must be possible. Yes. It must be possible. Guo also responded, put the steamed bun slices into his mouth and chewed them. Suddenly, Lu Bachan's ears twitched. There is someone. He hurriedly picked up a ball of soil with his feet, threw it on the fire, put it out in twos and twos, and then quickly took the dog to hide in the darkness. Hey, I saw a fire here just now, why is it gone? It must have been extinguished. Are you so alert? Can you be stronger? There are bandits all the way now. If the people are not alert, their bones will be gone. A dozen or so people talked and walked to the extinguished fire to take a look. Seeing that there was still firewood nearby, he used the fire stick he had with him to light the fire again. A dozen people sat around the fire, and after a while they all sighed, "Oh, I don't know if the Marshal and the General are still alive. Captain, where do you think we are going to find them? The world is so big." Zhao Liang. Hey, who called me? Zhao Liang looked into the darkness. This figure looked familiar. General. It's me. General? General. It's the General. General, we have finally found you. General, are you still alive? More than a dozen people gathered around him. Lu Bachan's throat was clogged. Seeing that these former subordinates were still alive and appeared in front of him, he had mixed feelings in his heart. It's good to be alive, it's good to be alive. General, we are happy to see you alive, happy. I'm happy too. Where's the marshal? When the dozen or so people saw that only the general and Guo appeared, but not the marshal, they all felt an ominous premonition in their hearts. Marshal, the marshal died of his injuries and is gone. As soon as Guo finished speaking, he began to sob. When all the soldiers heard this, they all fell to their knees. Marshal. Lu Bachan also burst into tears. He raised his head and blinked away the tears, and helped them up one by one. Get up. If you can live, the marshal will be happy. Marshal. After everyone calmed down, they all looked at Lu Bachan. General, what should we do? Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 330. Lu Bachan did not hesitate. Let's go to Yanzhou to join Qian Quan and others, and then we will recruit troops to avenge the marshal and me, Feng Xiang's tens of thousands of soldiers. Good. Revenge. 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 If you go this time, you will have a narrow escape from death in the future. We voluntarily follow the general. We want to avenge the marshal and the Feng Xiang army. Yes, revenge. Okay. Then let's go to Yanzhou. Go to Yanzhou. Lu Bachan waited for more than 100 soldiers in the Tutu temple. At first, hundreds of elite soldiers protected the marshal when he ran out of Feng Xiang. They were chased and killed all the way. The soldiers were divided into several groups. In the end, only more than 100 people were left. Lu Bachan waited for a few more days, but when no one came to find him, he took more than 100 people to Yanzhou. Su Qingyu also stayed in Yuwang Mansion for a few days. She also had a lot of things to do. She wanted to go to the mountains on the Yongjia side of Tiantai to check the situation before winter so as to arrange things for next year. I can't stay any longer. Then he prepared to say goodbye to Ma Mingwen, asked him for more people, and followed him to Yongjia on the rooftop. Su Qingyu walked to Ma Mingwen's study and saw that no one was guarding the door. She was about to call out to see if her godfather was there when she suddenly heard a voice coming from the room. She raised her legs to leave, but when she heard Lu Bachan, her steps suddenly stopped. We went all the way north, and as long as there were fortresses going south, there were portraits of Kui Sheng and Lu Bachan posted on them. The officers and soldiers used the paintings to compare the people entering and leaving one by one, and told the people that they first resisted stubbornly, and then abandoned the city and fled. As a result, tens of thousands of people and soldiers in Feng Xiang were killed, and the imperial court wanted to arrest them. Pay homage to the lonely souls of Feng Xiang people and soldiers. That's unreasonable. Ma Mingwen slapped the table hard. This Wu Quanzhong will drive everyone away and kill them all without saying a word, and he still wants Kui Sheng and Bo Cheng to bear such an infamy. Hateful. He has not yet secured his throne, so naturally he doesn't want to have a bad reputation. If he can get rid of the blame, he naturally doesn't want to get involved. The people don't know what's going on, so naturally they just believe whatever the court says. Hateful. Ma Mingwen circled around the room. Is there any news about other people passing by? My subordinates have not been able to contact them. I am afraid there is no news. Now everyone in the north is looking for him. I am afraid that even if he is alive, he will not dare to show up. This will also bring a lot of inconvenience to our search. Intensify your efforts and send people to quietly search the north and south fortresses. As long as Bo Cheng is alive, he will definitely go south. Just as he finished speaking, he paused again. No, if Bo Cheng is alive, he will not go south. He is afraid of hurting his wife and children, so he probably won't go south. You go to the north to find him. Yes. After the man reported to Ma Mingwen in the room, he was startled when he came out and saw Su Qingmu standing blankly at the door of the study. Small, miss, it was over, the miss heard it. When Ma Mingwen heard this in the room, he stepped out and hurriedly walked out. King Huo. Godfather, is he dead? Su Qingyu felt as if the blood all over her body was frozen. She just thought that when her son was growing up, he couldn't lose his father's role. Would his father be gone? No, no, you heard wrong. Ma Mingwen waved his subordinates away and helped Su Qingyu into the study. Then he pushed her to sit on the chair. Did you hear everything? Su Qingmu nodded blankly. Is he dead? He asked with difficulty. No, don't think about it. He saw Su Qingyu staring at him blankly, waiting for an answer. Ma Mingwen sighed. He just disappeared. Now Wu Quanzong's people are still looking for him everywhere. The searchers have not left, which means they have not found his body. Then he must still be alive, just somewhere. Good to show up. Why is he missing? No matter how the dynasty changes, he should stay in the army well. Why is he missing? Why did the new emperor draw a portrait and look for him? Could it be that he led an army to fight against the new emperor? Refused to recognize the new dynasty? Ma Mingwen sighed again. Regarding the news about the establishment of the new dynasty, Ma Mingwen told Su Qingyu, but about Feng Xiangjun and Lu Bachan, Ma Mingwen kept the news secret. Seeing that he could no longer hide it, Ma Mingwen sighed and told her all the news about Lu Bachan. Su Qingnao didn't come back to her senses for a long time after listening. Fengxiang city was destroyed, and tens of thousands of soldiers died. But the bodies of Lu Bachan and Marshal Kui Sheng could not be found. Since Wu Quanzhong sent troops to look for him, it means that he escaped and is very likely to be alive. Don't worry too much. Godfather has sent several people to look for him everywhere. There should be news soon. Don't worry, just wait and see. Seeing Su Qingyu in a daze, she felt a little uncomfortable. Even if there is an emergency on Bo Chang's side, you, Xiaobao, and your godfather are here. The godfather will definitely raise Xiaobao himself. Su Qingyu buried her head in her hands for a moment, then raised her head with red eyes. Godfather, I want to find him. No. The world is so big, how do you know where he is hiding? You are a woman, it is very chaotic outside, it is difficult to take a step. Where are you going to find him? When the godfather finds him, you can do something else over there. How should I explain it to Bo Chang? Su Qingyu was unmoved. I can't sit still. I can't do nothing. I want to go find him. This way, I feel better. You. Ma Mingwen tried his best, but he still couldn't convince Su Qingyu. Finally defeated. Okay, if you insist on going, your godfather can't stop you, so just put the little treasure in the house, and I will take him personally. Let Ma Xian and others follow you. No need. Uncle Xian's family has just arrived, so there is no need to follow me everywhere. I can just ask Si Yuan to follow. There are too many people and it will be conspicuous. Si Yuan, I'm afraid they won't be able to protect you. You don't know what the chaos is like outside. I'll call some more people to follow you. Su Qingyu had no choice but to nod in agreement. Ma Mingwen couldn't defeat Su Qingnao, thinking that maybe the husband and wife were of the same mind and had a special fate. Others couldn't find Bo Chang, but Qingnao could find him. He agreed to her. He called Si Yuan and gave him some instructions, and then selected a dozen good players and asked them to follow him to find Lu Bachan. Master, I will follow my sister-in-law to find my senior brother. Xiaoduzi ran over. Okay, count you in. Su Qingyu felt a little headache when she saw that Ma Mingwen had picked a dozen people. In the end, only Si Yuan, Xiaoduzi and two other good people were selected. A group of 6 people packed lightly and frugally and set out on the road. Before setting off, Suking Nao called Xiaobao and Qingyang to the front and gave them some instructions. I also told Qingyang about the matter, and he wanted to follow me as soon as he heard it. Suking refused. Take your nephew with you. If he doesn't make trouble, let him stay in Prince Yu's mansion. If he makes trouble, take him back to the mountains with your master. Okay, sister, you have to be careful. He turned around and coaxed Xiaobao again. Xiaobao, just be obedient and don't make trouble. Mom is going to find your father. Can you bring your father back to see Xiaobao? Mom, did you bring Dad back to see Xiaobao? Yes. Dad hasn't met Xiaobao yet. Xiaobao has learned his skills from Grandpa Ma and his grandfather. When Dad comes back and sees how good Xiaobao is, he will definitely praise our little treasure. Okay. I'll practice my skills and let Dad take a good look. Let Dad praise Xiaobao. On the day before leaving, Kui Yuing held Xiaobao and walked her to the door. Watching her go away, she felt endless worry in her heart. Suking Yu turned around, glanced at Xiaobao, and ran to the north resolutely. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bhaya 11U. Chapter 331. The group of 6 people didn't waste any time on the road and headed straight north. In addition to Siyuan and Xiaoduzi, there is also a man named Zhang Yang who is very powerful in martial arts. I heard he is a sharp archer. There was another one, the leopard that Suking Yu hadn't seen for a long time. Huabao is now following Ma Mingguan. He fights bravely on the battlefield and is not afraid of death. He is very valued by Ma Mingguan. This time I was also thinking about his past experiences and knew that he had some clever tricks that I was afraid Suqing would use on her journey to concubine. So let the leopard follow. You're following my godfather and you've already been promoted. Don't you want to bring your mother over to enjoy the blessings with you? Suqing teased him. Huabao scratched his head. We have only settled down in you in the past few months. We were running around here and there before, so we couldn't care less about it. We brought my mother here because there was no one to take care of her, and I was afraid of her not adaptable. Suqing still remembered what he said, to make great achievements and return home in fine clothes to see his mother. And I don't even know if my mother is still alive. Sister, have you sent a letter back to your hometown? My father sent a letter back, but he didn't receive a reply. Hey, maybe my mother even thinks I'm gone. After hearing this, Zhang Yang said, forget it, there is still an old lady for you to worry about. My family members are all dead, and I am the only one left naked. Siyuan seemed to have found a soulmate. We are the same. We both watched our family members die in front of our eyes. If we hadn't been saved by the King of Yu, we wouldn't be where we are today. Yes, the King of Yu has been kind to us. The men became familiar with each other instantly. Along the way, everyone pretended to be brothers and sisters looking for relatives, carefully avoiding people and heading north. After leaving the territory under the jurisdiction of the King of Yu, we slowly saw some homeless and hungry people on the road. The further north you go, the more down and out people you see on the road. They have dressed very low-key, just like ordinary people. But they are still different from the ordinary people who have patches on their bodies and look disgraced. As they walked, everyone was looking at them. Many people came around to beg them for food and money. It startled the 6 of them. I didn't dare to walk on the main road, so I took the narrow paths. Suqing was in a daze. Ever since she entered the mountains, she had food, drink, and a warm house to live in. She thought the world had become better. When I came out, I saw that the world was even more chaotic. It was even worse than when she escaped from Fengting town with her family. After crossing the Huihe River, the road became even more chaotic. From time to time, I saw a corpse lying on the road, which was beyond recognition. Su Qingyu was so frightened that she didn't even dare to look. There were many bandits blocking the road along the way. Fortunately, Zhang Yang and others were here, and their hands and feet were very powerful, and they were solved in a few clicks. Su Qingyu's heart beat violently. She was afraid that if something happened to her, what would Xiaobao do? What if she really became a child without a father and a mother? On this day, a group of people missed Sutu and slept in the wild. The further north you go, the colder the weather becomes. Everyone gathered some firewood and lit a fire to keep warm. "Miss, are we still going to Fengxiang?" Si Yuan asked her. Along the way, the farther north you go, the portraits of Kui Sheng and Lu Bachan hang everywhere. Many people who didn't know the truth threw things at their images when they heard that the two of them had abandoned the city and fled, ignoring tens of thousands of soldiers. The two images were covered in dirt. Su Qingyu felt very sad. She knew that Lu Bachan was not a person who was greedy for life and afraid of death. He has been in the army for 5 years. If he was greedy for life and afraid of death, he would have found a way to escape back. It was Wu Quanzhong who came to the throne. He didn't want to bear the taint of the massacre, so he framed the blame on the two of them and made them take the blame. "Miss, the security becomes tighter as we go north. Even if General Lu is still alive, we won't know where to look for him once he hides. Fengxiang has killed so many of his brothers, so he will definitely have some contact with it. And Fengxiang is not far from the capital. Let's quietly go to the Kui family to find out if there is any news about Marshal Kui." After going through many hardships, the group finally arrived in the capital Chang'an. Outside the city of Chang'an there were people dying of hunger, but inside the city of Chang'an there was prosperity visible to the naked eye, with people singing and dancing in peace. The streets seemed unaffected by the change of dynasties. There were many shops, shop flags were flying, and pedestrians strolled leisurely. There is not a single beggar to be found on the street. Su Qingyu thought of the ragged people wandering outside the city gate and let out a long sigh. When the new emperor ascends the throne, if he doesn't want to see it, his subordinates will naturally stop him from showing up. The group found an inn, stayed there, and began to inquire for news. Inn prices are shockingly expensive. A room with one bed costs 2 taels of silver per night. The middle room with 2 beds costs 20,000 yuan. They were still looking for an ordinary inn. The price was so expensive that Zi Yuan and others were stunned. After settling in, the next day, the 6 people divided into 2 groups to inquire about the Kui family. After asking around for a few days, I discovered that the Kui family's house in Chang'an had long been vacated. Even the general branches and side branches were moved cleanly. I don't know if he escaped or was liquidated by the new emperor. Su Qingnao wanted to inquire about the married daughter of the Kui family, but she didn't expect everyone's expressions to change. I can't even hear the name Kui Sheng. Su Qingnao had no choice but to hold back for fear of disturbing the situation. Finally, Hua Bao used his previous experience in the market to inquire about the ancestral graves of the Kui family. I heard that there have been servants guarding graves for generations. The group of people went over to find out. Unexpectedly, when I went there, all I saw were tombs, and the houses of the tomb keepers were all smashed up. The group of them searched around and found that there were no traces of human life for a long time. After staying there for most of the day and searching for most of the day, I had no choice but to return to Chang'an City. Su Qingnao couldn't help but be disappointed. It's been a month since they came out, and I haven't heard any news about them. Maybe they really are dead. Maybe Wu Quanzhong just wanted to find a random name, show off, and let them take the blame. Huabao went out for a few days. When he returned to the inn, he said to Su Qingyu mysteriously, "Sister, what do you think I found out today?" What? Su Qingyu was a little surprised and looked at him expectantly. Others gathered around. I heard that Feng Xiang's army was not finished, and 10,000 elite soldiers escaped with the prince and princess. Ah! The new emperor probably thinks that Marshal Kui and General Lu have hidden the prince and princess, and wants to find them, and then kill them. He made a killing gesture. But I heard that Wu Quanzhong made Emperor Shuo, who abdicated the throne, king of Jiyan, and asked him to take the remaining princesses and princes to Kozhu. Huabao looked at the door, leaned his head closer, and whispered, I heard that not long after the talent arrived in Huaiyan, Wu Quanzhong sent someone to give him poisonous wine, and he was poisoned to death. Ah! Who did you listen to? Everyone was shocked. They have already won the throne, but they have been relegated to the corner of the corner, and they still use poison to kill them? When I went outside to inquire, it seemed that many people knew about it, but no one dared to tell it everywhere. But I am afraid that the death of the last emperor cannot be hidden. Su Qingju's heart skipped a beat. With Wu Quanzhong killing everyone like this, could Lu Baqin have? No, no, he must still be alive. Madam, she has a tender heart. Author, Bha Xiaoye 11U. Chapter 332. Sure enough, a few days later, I heard that Wu Quanzhong gave the last emperor of the Shuo dynasty the posthumous title of Emperor Ai and was buried in Jiyan County with royal rites. Read. The cause of Emperor Ai's death was not mentioned in the edict. Buried in Jiyan County? If 10,000 elite soldiers had escaped while protecting the prince and princess, would they have gone to Shandong? If 10,000 elite soldiers are in Shandong, will Lu Baqin also be in Shandong? Su Qingyu thought about it all night and didn't sleep. The next day, I couldn't sit still and decided to go to Shandong. After checking out of the house, they sold the old carriage at a low price and replaced it with a larger carriage. They also got a good horse to pull the carriage, and the group headed towards Shandong. On this day, a group of people arrived in Shanghai. Since they had been traveling for days and were about to leave Henan, Su Qingyu asked everyone to stop and rest on the roadside. The weather was getting colder and colder, so Si Yuan and the others lit a fire and put the dried meat patties and other items they had brought over the fire to heat them up. While I was eating, I suddenly felt a vibration on the ground. No, it's horses. There should be a lot of them. Hurry up, hide them. As soon as several people heard Zhang Yang's words, they immediately put out the fire, led the horses into the woods, and pushed the carriage into the woods. The leopard immediately ran to a tree and looked into the distance. Quickly, hide. It seems to be an army, there are many people. There must be hundreds of people. Everyone climbed up the tree one after another. Su Qingyu also climbed up the tree on hands and feet and looked towards the sound. From a distance, you can see that they are all tall horses. The people on the horses are dressed in military uniforms and look majestic. The clothes he wore seemed to be similar to what Su Qingyu was wearing when he saw Lu Baqin in the mountains last time. Su Qingju's heart suddenly jumped violently. She didn't know why it suddenly happened. She pressed her chest, but it still kept beating. Su Qingyu didn't hesitate, holding the branch and sliding down. Sister, what are you doing? Sister-in-law, it's dangerous, come up quickly. Xiaotuzi was extremely anxious. Su Qingyu didn't listen and ran towards the road. There was a voice in her heart calling her. Lu Baqin and more than 100 horses were planning to go through Shanghai towards Shandong. After leaving Henan, Shandong is Mukong's territory. Mukong refused to recognize Wu Quanzhong as his master. He held all of Shaanxi, part of Hebei, and part of Shandong in his hands, and now guarded the entire Hedong mansion like an iron barrel. Wu Quanzhong still has nothing to do with him. After leaving Henan, he could go all the way there and relax. But as soon as he entered Shanghai, he was discovered. Originally, the group of them kept a low profile, but unexpectedly they were chased by Wu Quanzhong's people. Lu Bachan swung the riding whip in his hand, and the horse hurried forward, not wanting to confront the large army chasing behind him. Although there is hatred in my heart, I don't want to hit the stone with an egg just yet. He wants to keep the more than 100 people under his command. The group of people hurriedly galloped away, raising clouds of dust. Sukingyu didn't know why she wasn't afraid at all. She stood straight on the side of the road and looked at the people and horses getting closer and closer to her. Lu Bachan's group of more than 100 people were chased all the way, and they galloped all the way without noticing a person standing on the road next to them. On the contrary, Lu Bachan, who was surrounded in the middle, saw a woman standing there from a distance. His heart suddenly started beating violently. Close, getting closer. Lu Bachan's eyes widened with eyes wide open. It's really her. What a lady. Why is the lady here? The horse galloped all the way, and with the inertia, it couldn't stop at all. Lu Bachan's face was full of disbelief. Thinking of the large group of people chasing him, his liver and gallbladder burst. Go back. Go back. Go back quickly. More than 100 people flew past Sukingyu. Everyone was covered in armor, and everyone seemed to look the same. She searched one after another, and countless people passed by her eyes. Suddenly, she seemed to hear something and wanted to listen carefully, but only the thunderous sound of horse hooves filled her ears. Lu Bachan was extremely anxious. There were pursuers behind him, and his horse could not stop at all. Once he stopped, not only would his pursuers arrive, but his men would also be tripped by their horses. Suddenly, out of desperation, he suddenly pulled something from his body and threw it towards Sukingyu. Sukingyu's chest was photographed. Sukingyu reflexively pressed things on her chest with both hands. He looked towards the thrower. Go back quickly. When Lu Bachan saw her, his tiger eyes immediately filled with tears. He thrust the riding crop into his chest and kept making movements toward her to tell her to go back and avoid her. Sukingyu finally saw clearly. It's him, Lu Bachan. It's really Lu Bachan. She found him. Lu Bachan quickly passed by Sukingyu. Seeing that he was still looking back frequently, Sukingyu waved at him vigorously, Lu Bachan. When Lu Bachan heard her call, he couldn't help but burst into tears. When more than 100 people were no longer visible, only the flying ashes were left, Suqing's hands were still raised. Suddenly, another rapid sound of horse hooves was heard. Miss, come here quickly. Sister-in-law, come here quickly. Sukingyu reacted and immediately ran into the forest, climbing into a dense tree with the help of Si Yuan and others. Soon another team came galloping on horseback. It was obviously catching up with the team. Sukingyu and others were lying on the tree, not daring to move. Fortunately, the group of people were just rushing to chase the people, and did not dismount to explore the woods. Sukingyu and others lay on the tree for a long time, until they could no longer hear any movement, then they slid down the tree with weak hands and feet. Sukingyu climbed down from the tree and looked at the thing she had been holding in her hand. It's a piece of iron armor. Lu Bachan tore off a piece of armor from his body and threw it at her. Miss, was that General Lu just now? Sukingyu nodded, it's him. It's my senior brother, I recognized him. Xiaoduzi was also very happy. He has found his senior brother, Master can rest assured. It's great that my brother-in-law is still alive, Hua Bao said happily. Zhang Yang went to punch him. Who is your sister? If the young lady is your sister, then who are you, the king of you? When Hua Bao heard this, he covered his mouth with his hand and quickly put his hand down. A girl is a girl, and the king of you is the king of you. This is different. Zhang Yang ignored him. Now that we know Lu Bachan's whereabouts and see that he is still alive, everyone is relieved. Miss, are we going back to Renzhou now? I want to wait for news in Shanghai. If he is hunted down, I can take his place. But, Bah, General Liu is so brave and powerful, how can he be so easily chased by a few small fish and shrimps? That's right, my senior brother is good at martial arts. Master has praised him since he was a child. How could senior brother be caught up so easily? Si Yuan thought for a moment and said, okay. We will wait for news in Shanghai. If there is no news, we will return to Renzhou. Several people then rode into Shanghai. I inquired about some news in Shanghai. People who had seen it only said that there were two teams chasing them, but they didn't know whose troops they were. Now there is a new emperor in Chang'an, and there is also a new country title. There are many kings in various places, and the people don't know who is whose soldiers and horses. The group of people waited in Shanghai for several days and did not hear any bad news. So King Yu decided to return to Renzhou.